And
Our volume.
yes,
Yes.
your volume, my son. Oh, now we have to go there. Now I have to send you over to Tensha so that you guys, so
Thank you,
I,
Pathfather.
Send
yeah.
him over to Quan Lai.
Now I get to, then
I
I get to
don't.
do a bunch of Tengu voices.
Be sweet. We'll all want to kill each other.
No, it wouldn't bother me, man.
It would bother me like 2 hours. And just enough. Pick something new.
All right. Well, we are back with our Around the Hearth, and this time we're on Black Dragon Gaming talking about encounters of CR7 and 8. And let me see. Announcements to get out of the way. Both Black Dragon Gaming and the Inn of Planar Crossroads have a Patreon going on. So if you want to check us out and support us, you can do that over there. Also, if you are tuning into this and you're below the age of 18, we are giving you a disclaimer now. While I do not, some of these other adults use adult language. Parental discretion is advised. So,
If you're older than 12 and you've been on the internet before, you know what the word fuck is.
You're also very desensitized, probably.
Yeah, most of these viewers that are under 18, they're probably used to the foul language by this point.
They've all read the obediences.
I was cool. I was gonna say you've seen a Markiplier or PewDiePie or Jacksepticeye video at some point. You're used to it.
yeah,
I have seen none of
idea
those.
why PewDiePie is so popular. But getting off that,
Minecraft.
subscriber appreciation one shot is pretty close to happening. All we need is 2 more subscribers on the Inn of Planar Crossroads, and Kane will run a game. That is the Kane from our Ghoulish Games series, and
Heyo.
it plays. So go ahead and subscribe to us if you want to see
Yeah,
that.
genuinely interested parties, please. No asking your friends to subscribe to the channel to push us over the 100 limit.
Yes, because he would like people to actually want to play in the one-shot giveaway. Our monthly giveaway at the Inn of Planar Crossroads already happened this month, and that went to Joe Harvila, who is our patron that got the $20 gift certificate to Hero Forge. And I went over to get his gift certificate on Hero Forge, and I spent like 30 minutes tinkering around with the
Oh, yeah.
character
Yeah, it's a
creator.
trap. Oh, man.
So don't go there unless you're ready, unless you prepare yourself. So I think that's everything that we have to announce, unless Tommy has something.
Oh, yeah, no, I got nothing. Again, I guess what I should say, because I don't ever say I'm on these videos, I should say that these videos are brought to you in part by patrons, patronages. Like Adam said, it's the wheels that make this go in 2018. And if you want to see both of us do like more crazy awesome stuff, that's the way to do it. And I'm gonna roll a d6 for it because I have all my like patron shout outs with 3 patrons like in a row for my 3 weekly videos. So I'll go in alphabetical order. I rolled a 1. So this episode of Around the Hearth, How to Encounters CR7 and 8 was brought to you by Joseph Harvilla. Joe, sucks you're not here. Sucks you're trying to better yourself, but I'll catch you on Thursday, dude.
Yeah, it totally is bad that you're trying to do that, Joe. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tommy,
So if anybody
your channel,
wants to,
so yours.
yes, I was gonna say I want to go first because I'm cheating. All of my encounters today are kind of. One of them was last Thursday, and it was accidentally too much fun. Like I had so much fun with it, I ended up spending like 3 hours after the session ended editing the monsters in the encounter to make their voices sound stupid. And I had a lot of fun with that.
Post. Yeah.
Was it good? Did it sound good?
It was
Or
pretty
did it sound
good.
just like corny and stupid?
No,
Sweet.
it was pretty good.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about my CR7 one first. It's not a CR7 encounter at all. But at this point, like I said, CR becomes entirely arbitrary. The players know what they're doing, and it's up to you to challenge them. And B, at this point, if you do it wrong, encounters stop being fun. You know, the fact that it's like, oh, it's my turn. Okay, rolls d20. That get there? No. Okay, pass. And that becomes, it just gets really like grindy, and it can suck the fun out of the game really fast. So I'm trying to I like my encounters to be more cinematic. Not to say I'm not trying to kill you, but I want there to be more going on to keep you keep you enthralled, keep you having fun, keep you paying attention, and not just like, I'm gonna go to my phone, la la la, oh, it's my turn. So last week in a Planar Crossroads, I talked about, well, I tried to talk about, and then my internet died a bunch, but I talked about the Kirin, and I talked about how I like using them because they can cast, they can fly, they're a good choice for Lancers. And I didn't even think about this when I brought them up, but there was a point in time, and I used kind of like GM hand wavium to make the Kirin undead but retain all of its abilities. Mechanically, you could make it like a vampire spawn, or I think ghouls retain their intelligence. I could be wrong, but there's a million ways to skin the cat. What I did, and this was in an old campaign a million years ago, it took place on Galarion, and there was the first part of the campaign because I had a kitsune who had run away from home. Well, not really run away from home, but had grown up in an orphanage and didn't know their parents. It seems to be a theme with the kitsune, but I wanted to bring her into the world really like into the full. So I brought in, I didn't know where Tian Sha or what it was at the time, but what I did was I had like built a whole story where like this, essentially a Grave Knight had taken control of like all of Tian Sha, and like under the banner of his like undead armies, he conquered the place, and he's coming over to Galarion. He started in, it was weird, I shouldn't have had him start in Andoran based on the way that map looks, but I didn't really know the map. But around like level 7, level 8, the party, they find their way to Absalom, which is like the city at the center of the world in Galarion. It's the biggest trade hub, and they find it to be just like a mess, completely destroyed, bodies decaying all over the place. And again, I said Grave Knight. What I did for this encounter was the like air quotes hard here. Big bad was a Grave Knight Cavalier on a undead Kirin mount, and we had lots of. They were just kind of terrible zombies with muskets or terrible zombies with pikes, essentially. And what we did was we used those to like gum up the ground game. And people who are starting to get their armor class figured out, the musket is more likely to hit. Even if you're like 1d12 plus nothing, it's still getting through. And we have the Kirin. Again, I'd given him full casting power. And if I was smart, I'd be casting Hold Person and then have the zombies coup de grace. But what we were doing was we had like, if the party would stand too close, I'd fireball them. If the party would stand too far away, I'd like fly around and lightning bolt. The Wall of X spells are a lot of fun. And it's basically just like you had this undead knight, well, samurai, flying around above the battlefield, and if somebody gets to be too much of a threat, you spirited charge down at him. Again, like, we're not trying to kill the party, but we are trying to challenge them. We are trying to, like, keep them on their toes, make them think. And that's, like, in a really high CR encounter, though it's CR7 because the only one that really mattered was the Kirin and the knight on his back. But you still had all these other, like, I don't want to say hit point tax, but I guess that's what they are, like little things you could trip over. And the Grave Knight could always just animate more. And there was plenty of bodies all over the place. At one point, I think I animated an elephant and threw it at the party. But the reason the encounter works is, again, CRs become arbitrary at this point. And it stays cinematic in of the fact that, like, it gives everybody something to do. My party composition at the time, and the party like abused leadership really hard. I had a Blood Rager who is now really famous, a Kitsune Bard, a Samsaran Arcanist, and a Gribbly Magus. And the Magus was an archetype that's shooting, so it's like your spellcasters are targeting him, while Big Angry Blood Rager is just wading into dudes with pikes, and the Bard is running support the whole time. It stays really... everyone's involved, everyone has something to do, and it's still challenging because, again, the most important thing up there is a CR7 Kirin and his mount, or his rider, rather. So, yeah, that is my encounter for this, and I stress, keep it cinematic, keep it fun, keep everybody challenged. Don't, like, spirited charge somebody into the ground unless you're terrible or they're terrible and you want them out of your house. But I digress. That's mine. I will... I have a D6 in my hand. We'll just go with that. 1, 2 is Kane. 3, 4 is Adam. 5, 6 is Donald. Tommy rolls A6. Donald, take it away, bud.
To continue the motion of a awesome encounter, I actually used this for a game I actually GM'd. This was a occult seem horror type of game, and I actually used the ghost monster effectively. Being a CR7 monster and also a template, you can apply the ghost template to other creatures to have more of a choice in what you want to have. So the party, they are being paid to deal with a haunted house and to take the haunting item out of the mansion to pretty much purify the place of any ghost presence. So this house I had equal amount of challenges for everyone: combat, knowledge checks, and the investigation challenge of itself. The ghost itself, if you use them properly, it can be quite a challenge for everyone with the draining attacks they have and all the undead immunities. So if you're going up against undead and ghost, you need to prepare properly against them, because ghosts, you do 1/2 damage even using a magic weapon, and you need a ghost touch weapon or the enchantment to do full amount of damage. So ghost, if you use them properly, they can be quite the challenge for the party. And generally, to add on top of CR at CR7 and onward, it's become less than a science at this point, as not everything is at the same CR. So yeah, Ghost, you want to have a villain come back to life and haunt the party? Bring them back as a ghost by a very powerful necromancer and such.
I agree entirely. In some situations, like, and this is not to disparage you, but like if the party is full of paladins, they're probably going to handle the ghost. But if your party, like, especially in a low magic setting, ghosts can be really, really hard to deal with. And if you have no casters and no one has magic weapons, and then suddenly here's like the ghost of dead Johnny is come back to torment the party, and nobody can do anything about it, they can get deadly real quick.
Yeah, true. This is why I emphasize preparation is a must when dealing with ghosts, as they can easily wreck a single group if you are not prepared.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially since they are never destroyed until whatever is keeping them there is dealt with. So 2 to 4 days,
true.
They come back.
Yeah, true. Ghost can make quite the interesting adventure hook.
Have them haunt, like, and this idea just like struck me out of nowhere. But I remember there was a certain game, and someone here GM'd it and someone here magpied it, where somebody died to a breath weapon, and then somebody else, I'm not naming names here, but somebody else promptly like loots all his gold. I think it'd be really funny, especially again in a low magic party where they can't really deal with it. So like, if a player dies and then promptly another player just, I loot his body, maybe that becomes the haunt. Maybe that becomes like, and I'm Resident Remorsing hard.
Hey,
I didn't. It's not like I stood over his body and went through his pockets. Okay, I just
you didn't even wait
took
till
his
he was
coin purse
ash.
off him.
You picked it off him as he flew off the cart, turning to ash.
Dead. He wasn't even dead. I didn't even know he was dead. I was just stealing from him because I'm an opportunist.
No.
Nevertheless, I think it'd be really funny to bring Sheehan back with like as a ghost and just torment. Maybe not even try to kill Magpie. Yeah, just do that.
I would like to call it liberating wealth from people who do not need it anymore.
Rogues.
Well, I
Anyway,
will
if
spoil
that's all you
nothing
do,
by saying that I have plans for Shin. So
Oh, we know they have something to do with those dumb little lights.
I thought it was the fox. I really did. But Adam's really good at surprising me. This is and I'm not trying to tell on myself, but I didn't cheat. What I did was after Tuesday's session, I popped open my copy of Rise of the Rune Lords because you said you had changed the encounter. I swear to God, I didn't read any farther forward, but I wanted to see like what you had changed as opposed to what it's supposed to be. And the way you did it, Adam, makes so much more sense than how that encounter is supposed to play out.
doesn't it though?
Yeah, why?
Which encounter specifically?
Yesterday, last
The
session,
Fox
rather. You're
Glove
supposed
encounter.
you're supposed to show up in Foxglove Manor. It's all torn up, and then these people come down. Hi, you want some food? No sense. Nonsensical. Anyway, I digress. Donald, if you are done, evens equals Kane, odds equals Adam. Tommy rolls a 2. Kane, you're up, bud.
All right. As I mentioned earlier, before we got here, I have been somewhat preoccupied this week. So instead of having the normally prepared encounter I have when I'm here for these encounter talks, I will instead talk about how to use this monster in an encounter. My monster, which I believe was mentioned last week when I wasn't here for CR7, is the Black Pudding.
Delicious.
Which is a huge ooze. Oozes are they're not so much monsters that I would assault the party with as a real threat, so much as you use oozes as environmental hazards. They're mindless, so they're real easy to get around if you have the proper tools, but otherwise they're monsters that are almost entirely driven by the need to consume and absorb. And what makes black puddings particularly nasty is that their acid damages metals and organic material, and that includes your equipment. Whenever you take damage, acid damage, from a black pudding, it also does that damage to your equipment. That means your armor, your weapons, the clothing you're wearing under that armor, if you want to get weird about it. All of it. And it's also very good at grappling, yada, yada, yada. And they can, because they have an ability called suction, which is basically like the poor man's spider climb. They can hang off of walls or inverted surfaces like ceilings, regardless of how smooth they are. So they can drop down on top of people. They don't breathe because they're oozes, so they can be underwater. You can really stick an ooze pretty much anywhere that isn't actively damaging the ooze by it being there, and it'll come upon your party and mess up their day. They're one of those monsters that's really nasty, like a rust monster, because it attacks your party's equipment, and players hate it when you attack their equipment.
Yeah, I know, right? When the equipment
that's
just
most
is
of what I have
gone
for
or
a black
disappears,
pudding.
or
And that does make it all the more powerful too. That's the same reason I like the death worm, is because it doesn't necessarily just hit the hit points. It has other things that it can, like, other things it can do, and if nothing else, in like, I really don't like the word dungeon. It feels too stereotypical, but in like a dungeon setting, it becomes a really rough tax if like the barbarians, like his belt of giant strength has been worn through, or like in a lower point by, and this happened to Greg in Rise of the Runelords, if say somebody is relying on that belt of giant strength to have access to power attack, and then suddenly they're at 12 strength and they don't qualify, and like the whole sheet goes sideways. It can be super powerful. Also, did we mention compression on that ooze? Did we talk about the compression ability?
I think so.
I don't think black puddings have compression.
Oh, really? Weird. Never mind then. I was going to say if they have compression, yeah, it's getting where it needs to go.
Another.
I mean, that might just be an ooze trait.
no, they
That
have,
sounds like something that's basically an amorphous blob would do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a gelatinous cube, but everything else.
Yeah,
And-
super strong. The
another
ooze morphs get it.
Another good thing about oozes is there are many ooze types, so you can easily switch out certain ooze traits to have a different ooze type at the same CR, such as a fire ooze, a acid ooze, a lightning ooze, at the same CR still, but just change immunities and damage types.
A lot of ooze is also split. Split isn't. It's kind of interesting. It's not really that scary. They get one extra attack per round because now there's two of them, but otherwise, oozes, they have no intelligence score. They're immune to all mind-affecting effects. They're blind, which usually means they have the blind sense special quality that gives them immunity to gaze attacks, visual effects, illusions, and other forms of attack that rely on sight. They're immune to poison, sleep effects, paralysis, polymorph, and stunning. Any ooze that deals acid damage also does that acid damage to objects. They're not subject to critical hits because they don't have organs, because they're soup.
You.
That also means that they don't take damage from precision-based attacks like sneak attack. But they okay, so oozes do eat and breathe, but they don't sleep, so you can't stick them underwater.
I'm sure there's an aquatic variant. If nothing else,
Oh.
just slap an aquatic template on it.
Yeah, more than likely.
There is
sure.
an aquatic ooze out there. It's I forget what it's called at the moment, but yeah, there is one out there. But I think it loses
Nice.
something else that makes it not quite as desirable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Anywho, Kate, if that's all, Adam, what do you got for us for the CR?
Yeah, I think that's everything.
All right. So for CR7, I've got a CR7 and a CR8. So for CR7, I liked. I talked about it briefly last time. I like the Doulahan because I like it thematically because it's basically the headless horseman.
Yeah, I had thought about talking about the Doulahan.
Yeah, I like that he has that no matter, and this is how I would use him in a game. If I was dealing with people that were below CR7, that I'd want this to be, a challenge I was throwing at a lower level party. I wouldn't change anything about him really. He'd be a Doulahan, have his same stuff, and he would have his chilling blade giving his slashing weapons keen, and the blade inflicts an extra 1d6 of cold damage. And then his death calling ability is actually quite substantial because it takes a DC 22 fortitude to resist it. And once per day, he can use it as a standard action. He calls out to a target, and if he knows the target's name and uses it when he does his death calling, they take a -2 on the save, so that could bump it up to a 24, which is nothing to sneer at it. CR at a level 7. If the victim fails,
Well,
to
to touch
save,
on. Sorry, you're not done. Go ahead.
if the victim fails to save, he becomes staggered for 1d6 rounds, and for the next 24 hours, or until the Doulahan is slain, all critical hits against the victim automatically confirm. And remember, every bladed weapon that he holds does an extra d6 of cold and is keen. So no matter what it is, it has an expanded crit range by his ability, not by the property itself of the blade. And finally, the victim automatically fails all constitution checks to stabilize while dying. So, yeah, it can get pretty hard. And it has summon mount. So it can, if using the death calling ability, the Doulahan can hit fairly well with his CR and maybe a little bit above it. Especially, and this is how I would use him, if it's a lower level party, like I said, I wouldn't change anything. But if it was a higher level party, but I still wanted to use a Doulahan for thematic purposes, I would just give him max hit points, and then I would have him either. There's several ways you could do it. You could have him have a blade that is supposed to be reclaimed, or that is special, or that is a quest item that needs to be claimed for the quest, and get rid of his regular blade. Because all it is a longsword. It's a +1 longsword. So give him an actual blade that a legendary dead Doulahan would have. And all of a sudden, things can get kind of fun. Because if you give him a blade that's got the growing or some other type of enchantment, it's going to hit harder and hit better, and it's going to have keen for free, and it's going to do a d6 of cold for free because of him as a creature endowing it with that power. Yeah, that can get kind of fun, especially if he's an elven Doulahan that is using an elven curve blade that is Vorpal and or something like that. Sheesh.
Vorpal. Whoa.
Just depends on how far you want to take it with your players.
If you want to use the pre-order for improved critical as well, that is deadly right there.
Was there really like somewhere in Pathfinder let that stack with the keen special weapon ability?
I don't think that ever existed, and
'Cause
if
I'm
it
pretty
did,
sure
it
in-
never should have.
In 3.5, I'm pretty sure it was that same one. Because I screwed that up once, and I was critting like 9 to 20, not knowing.
Yeah, that'd get kind of out
Yeah,
of
because
hand.
that would be. That would just be dumb.
Things died. Things died.
Also, if you've got a kleptomaniac Dullahan, he may have stole the prized weapon of the fighter or melee person, and now he's using it, and they've got to go get it back, but they have to face the same blade they're trying to reclaim, so there's always that, too.
Side quests.
So that's mine for CR7, Dullahan.
Alright, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
grab CR8 here. I did actually use a CR8 monster for this unintentionally, not meaning this was gonna happen, but this, you can see this. This is gonna go live on my channel Saturday morning, and then Sunday morning, the next episode of Lordly Caliber drops, and you'll catch the tail end of this encounter if you just watched tomorrow. But go back and watch. Of all the episodes I've had to DM of Lordly Caliber over the we'll be on 18 tomorrow. Yeah, I think. It was the most fun unintentionally. I was talking with Sarah about it after, and she commented for just being a dumb stereotypical dungeon crawl, that was a whole lot of fun, and I didn't mean for that to happen, but that's what it was. This encounter is definitely over CR8 because, again, CR is arbitrary. Just use it as a base. And the monster, I really like to keep my encounters open. Back in the day when I wasn't as confident in my ability to improvise, I'd make a lot of if-then statements, essentially, and I'd write them down, and that's how the encounters would build. And maybe it would go really bad, or maybe it would go really good. But like I've said before, I've always been a really big fan of the natural 20. So what I did was I knew they were going to go into a mine. I knew I wanted to do something with it. I was trying to do something for my my Norse pagan who's in the party. I haven't used giants in a while. Let's dig out some giants. And I start I'm at work, and this is the day of the session, and it just kind of dawns on me. Let's do this. And I dig out cave giants. Cave giants are CR6, and I rolled a lot of natural ones when they were
I think
attacking.
they're CR7 actually.
Really? I'm pretty sure that's CR6. I think they're in the same bestiary as the monster that matters here. Giant cave. Yeah, it's CR6.
Huh?
It might be CR7 because Bestiary 3 is old, but the Adventurer's Armory 2, where the Butchering Axe was released, that's last summer, and in their entry it says all cave giants are proficient with, it says hand axes, battle axes, and great axes, but I think somewhere on the interwebs it says they're proficient with axes, so I slapped Butchering Axes on them, and I just kind of played dumb super mutants from the original Fallout. The monster that matters here, I flavored it to be desert flavored because I forgot until I was hanging out with Nerdarchy that we're allowed to do that. The CR8 monster we are talking about is the Deadfall Scorpion. It's I used it because it was an appropriate CR, but I took it it's supposed to be a forest-based scorpion. It's supposed to get bonuses from being in the forest. I just all those it has a +8 to its stealth or a +16 in a forest. I was gonna scratch that out right desert, and I gave it a burrow speed. I like these guys because, and a lot of players will forget this, I forget it all the time, during a surprise round, you're supposed to get a standard action, and that's it. The Deadfall Scorpion has an ability called Sudden Strike, which during a surprise round, a Deadfall Scorpion may act as if it had a full round to act, rather than one standard action. Originally, the idea was the party was going to stumble on these cave giants, and they were going to essentially just make a bunch of noise, and these Deadfall Scorpions would pop up out of the sand, and they'd start attacking the party while the cave giants just back up and throw stuff at the party, and they have to contend with these size category huge things that are grappling and poisoning and blasé. But like I said, it's important to keep the encounters flexible. So it was kind of just out of nowhere that I decided that the cave giants were going to be afraid of the scorpions, and it was off natural 20s. I decided that they'd be afraid of the scorpions, and the scorpions would attack them too, because the scorpion is mindless. I imagine it just sees a food source and attacks it, and it's gianter than the giant is. So it ended up being just a complete cluster. The scorpion is attacking giants. The giants are, die, scorpion, attacking with, now I have to edit that now. But just throwing these mithril butchering axes at him, trying to hit, and it turned into a whole lot of fun. It's of an appropriate CR, and really, if you want to just like, here is a Scorpion. The Scorpion has a respectable-ish 21 AC. Its big deal is it has bonuses to stealth, and I kind of just slapped the burrow speed on it. But it can act in a full round action, and it can grab even like the Druger or the Barbarian, who at this point has like 20 potions of enlarged person like hanging around his belt. That he can just, now I'm large, we can grab him. It has poison, so what do we drain on the poison? 1d4 strength damage once a round for 6 rounds. So you're on average, if all of those hit, you get something like 15, I think, is the average of 60. I could be wrong. It's real good, though, is what I'm saying. And again, these guys get bonuses, stealth, and also they can constrict you for just as much as they're grabbing. A pretty solid 1d8 plus 8. It's in my games, I like to give everybody max hit points, mostly because like I've been that guy in 3.5 who played a sorcerer. Is like, oh, it's time to roll my hit points. 1, and just like be pissed off until the next session.
Yeah,
that's why I became a dragon disciple, was because I wanted that D12 hit dice. But even in like if you have full hit points, 1d8 plus 8 is going to hit you for at least 9, which is at least like the average class has a d8 hit dice. You're gonna probably knock a hit dice off, and then you still have your standard action to sting them. Again, these guys are really strong, and again, the encounter went really sideways, but there was also like there's more to the encounter that, and this is not like to spoil it for Donald or Kane or Adam if he ever decides he loves us again, but there's more to the encounter that was removed because my player who I think hits the hardest didn't make it, so I took a bunch of stuff out that you guys will see hopefully on Thursday. But yeah, I'm starting to ramble a bunch. CR8 equals Deadfall Scorpion, and don't be afraid to throw in a bunch of shenanigans for fun. Don't be like, if something has 6 intelligence, it has 6 intelligence, and there's no reason it shouldn't be afraid of the scorpions. But
I'm really glad that those giants are there, because there's 3 CR6 giants and 3 CR8 scorpions in that room with us, and they're all beating the shit out of each other.
I'm pretty sure there were 2 scorpions.
What I'm hearing is that
well, maybe
you guys,
I'm misremembering, but still, there's 2 huge scorpions.
They're real good, yeah.
So what I'm
Go ahead,
hearing is
Adam.
that you guys are fighting super mutants and rad scorpions in Kodila.
Yeah, completely, totally by accident. And I started referencing, and I'm surprised nobody got it. I was referencing, I think it's the very first Fallout. If you play with low intelligence, you have the kind of voice, and they send you to a cave to kill rad scorpions, and you come back, and if you talk to the quest giver, it's like, what'd you find? Yeah, scorpions. That's just kind of I ran with that.
I am actually glad I haven't used all of my third level spells yet in that session yet, so I'm gonna have fun on Thursday.
Yeah, I will too. I'm so stoked. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble.
I've never beaten a Fallout game, so I have, that reference was lost on me, unfortunately.
No, you poor guy. Anyway, I dropped my D6, so I'm just gonna run them from the bottom up. Adam, you have the floor. Go.
All right. Well, my CR8 encounter is one that I did mention last time, the Rakshasa, specifically the Mirai. And I like it because the Mirai Rakshasa is basically a budget beholder. It doesn't have the anti-magic in the middle, of course, but it has those rays that it shoots from its arms. So what it looks like is a finely robed and nimble fiend has 6 colorful vipers in place of arms, and a long forked tongue in its fanged mouth. And depending on what Google search you get, sometimes they look intimidating and sometimes they look kind of stupid. But in general, mechanically, they're actually better. They have, if they hit you with their bite, which they have their own bite as well as a melee from their snakes, the melee bite from their snakes. Any of those that hit can give you, have to make you make a DC 19 will save or become confused for 1 round. So that in itself can be problematic. But what really makes it fun is that every 1d4 rounds, as a standard action that provokes attacks of opportunity, a Mirai's 6 snake arms can spit a bolt of energy to a maximum range of 60 feet. And I mentioned this on our channel. Each bolt does 1d8 points of damage and has an additional effect. And those effects are what you're wanting, because they're DC 19 fortitude saves. So your fighters and stuff like that, those with the high fort saves, they should be able to make that, probably, if they're fighting a CR7 creature. But making it 6 times in a one after the other, you're starting to really play the odds there. And every time these things hit against touch, these are like rays. They hit against touch. So this thing can really start to wreak some havoc. The Amethyst Viper does Sickened, the Crimson Viper does burn damage, the Emerald Viper does acid, the Magenta does electricity and staggered, the acid. And each of them has a lasting problem. The Violet one does force, that knocks you down. You can get stunned by the
It's basically
turquoise.
a prismatic spray spell that's got legs.
Yeah, that's really strong. I didn't realize that existed. Man.
Which Rakshasa is this specifically?
Marai. It's in Bestiary 3.
Yep, it's
I'll put it right there. You hit them with the Amethyst one first to get them sickened, so they have a -2 on their saves, and then if you want to just lock them out, you make them nauseated forever. That's super sweet. The burn that's the thing. It will hurt fire bad. Nauseated and staggered and stunned, all 3. Like, that could kill a party real fast if they're not ready for it.
Yeah, so
that is quite the picture.
This thing can hit above its CR level, and what makes it fun is they're Rakshasa, so they have the special quality change shape, as if alter self.
I keep looking at these snake heads in the picture, trying to figure out if the snake heads are on backwards, because those are her arms.
I don't.
Yeah, that was the only real bitch I've ever had about Rakshasa. Is I see a lot of art of the common ones, like knife or sword fighting with things, and every time you went to parry or block something with that sword, it would just break your wrist.
Yeah,
magic.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be weird things they're outsiders, and they're shape changers. So I mean, But
I always forget they're not just anthropomorphic tiger people. I didn't realize there was one that just looks like a Hindu god.
Yeah,
the thing when it came to Rakshasas, they come in many shapes and forms. So most of them appear feline, at least the more common ones, and then the other ones look not cat-like at all.
Yeah. I definitely was going to use these guys a lot in a campaign. In that same game where we went to Absalom, when it started, I had a paladin, and ironically enough, his name was Gideon. Probably for the same reason I'm imagining that Greg's is because they both play a lot of Magic. Like, we were literally in a game store when we set this group up, and they're trying to come up with names. And this is when MTG Origins came out, and there's a like thing of Gideon.
I'm just getting that now.
Ah, well, there you go. Got you back. And the guy worshipped Irori. Just, I don't know why, but he chose Irori, which, again, I'm fine with that. I think Iomade is kind of boring, stereotypical. But I had planned the whole thing out. We were going to John Moray and then Vudra at 4th level. He doesn't have to worry about Divine Bond. I'm just going to give him an Awakened White Tiger to ride, and here's a Whip Sword, and you're going to fight some Rakshasa. Nope, you left. I didn't realize how strong they were until right now, though.
That sounds pretty cinematic.
Another good thing about the Rakshasa is that you can use them as a social encounter as well.
Well, this particular Rakshasa is the Mirai are 5th level sorcerers, and it talks about in their entry that they grow up 6 feet tall, so but they have this. They're deviant spellcasters, and they like to corrupt other spellcasters, but they do it secondarily. They want the magic first. And a quirk about them, a way to find them out, I guess you would say, is the Morai are unable to do. They're unable to do things that require a lot of manual dexterity. Apparently, even in their transformed state, and they can't.
Wow.
And have to rely on things like magic hand and stuff like that.
I mean, you wouldn't be particularly nimble with your hands either if they were normally 3 fucking snakes apiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we ever play a creature game, this is one creature I'd like to scale down and then scale up into and past, because it's a really versatile creature and very strong. But
Speaking of that, I'd like to get a look at the monsters as classes rules. You know, the racial levels that they were really popular in books like Savage Species in 3.5.
Oh man, those were so bad.
Oh
At
yeah,
least-
they were really bad in 3.5 because of how the level adjustment system works.
Yeah, level adjustment made me cry really hard. I really like tieflings a lot, but not enough for LA1.
well,
Yeah,
if
they-
I
they
ever
also-
play
well-
another creature if I ever play a creature that we have to start at low level and work up, aside from this, I want to do that might vermin lord so much.
That'd be sweet. That'd be so sweet.
One monster race that I want to play still, if this is a high level game, it is a Drider, just because they're awesome.
Driders are only like 28 RP. I don't even know what they get. I don't know why. Like what the appeal is.
Only
Pretty good.
28
Well,
RP.
they're the giant spider, mostly drow, and they get access to low level magic and general good stats across the board.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we're low on time, so I'm gonna just keep running up. I imagine Kane is not repaired, so I'm gonna dig out Bestiary 1 and see what's cool about Driders.
I
But
can do the wolf in sheep's clothing.
then go, Kane.
I don't
Wolf
have a
in
ton
sheep's
of
clothing.
stuff to say about the wolf in sheep's clothing. I suggested it the other week, the wolf in sheep's clothing, as my CR8 because it's just a super goofy monster when you look at it, but it's also super creepy.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with like the really archetypal depiction of a wolf in sheep's clothing, it's basically a mimic, but in the woods. It's like a tree stump with a bunch of tentacles that you can't see because they look like roots. With like a rabbit or or maybe like a person sitting on it until you get close to it, and then the stump comes to life and the corpse falls off, and now you're fighting this like super gnarly, uncomfortable, like aberrant stump. It's got 8 tentacles and a bite. And the tentacles don't do a lot of damage, but they have a really high to hit, and they all get an automatic grab and an automatic pull. So basically, it's just trying to like grab you and pull you towards its mouth, so it can, if you're grappled and helpless, it'll lay eggs inside you. And like it has an ability called corpse lure. So if it kills something, it'll use those tentacles to like sit something up on top of itself, and then grow a bunch of gross little like filament like roots up into the corpse's corpse, and sort of like puppeteer it to draw people in. So there could definitely be a scenario where you have a wolf in sheep's clothing with like some weary traveler perched atop it, and he's like, "Hey!" waving at people, and you're just like beckoning them into a clearing, and you're like, "Well, okay, that's weird. That's not suspicious at all. It's clearly a trap, but we're gonna go anyways because we're dumb." And then, yeah, you get there and you're expecting bandits or like magic or something like that. And it's the stump. The stump is the enemy. Like literally the last thing in the clearing you were worried about it's the dead tree. The dead tree whips out like 8 tentacles and a mouth.
Yeah.
It's just gross. And it's got a burrow speed and it's got an intelligence of 6. So it's not, completely stupid. If you hurt it real bad, it's going to descend into the ground and come back later, and you're never going to be able to trust logging companies again.
Yeah,
I don't trust logging companies now.
Well, that's fair. Most of them are illegal.
Yeah.
Well, I was also looking at its entry. There's two ways, and it can infest you with its eggs. There's that injury part first,
Mhm.
but if it gets you to eat the creature's carcass used by the monster as a lure, it automatically implants you. So it gets in your guts and it
Yeah.
starts to grow. That
I mean, I could see a player making that choice,
will
but if
say
you
that
think
you're in
about it,
a
why would you eat
well.
even like a rabbit or something you would normally eat that was just on a stump in the forest? Why would you eat that?
Well, here's my presentation on how that would happen. First, first, the players are walking down the road. They have not eaten and they're out of trail rations. It's been a long trek. The hunts haven't been coming up good. All of a sudden, along the road, they see a deer grazing by a stump. And they're like, shh, guys, it hasn't seen us, it hasn't seen us. Draw a bow, shoot it. Oh, such a good shot, the deer falls right there. They take the deer, they go eat it. Fun in the night.
Actually, that takes place in the beginning of book 2 of the Iron Fang Invasion AP. Almost exactly what you said. People
Yeah,
are
it's
running out
not.
of food, and somebody like it's just like one of the dumb NPCs is supposed to find it, and then oh no, he's got the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Really, see, that's how I would run.
It's
That's how I would
not
do that.
technically rules as written, but yeah, that's probably how you would do it.
Paizo agrees with it, so hey, we're good.
Wolf in sheep clothing, is that a plant-based monster?
It's actually an aberration.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an aberration. Anywho, so I think we're just left with Donald to bring us home. Is that right?
Yes. Last week, one of the people here mentioned the Cold Rider. The Cold Rider. This is an interesting monster that you would find in the Norse cold part of the world. These Cold Riders being a CR8 monster. They have relatively good AC damage. With the weapon they can do, and all of the spell-like abilities they can do per day and at will. So picture this: the party is going through a winter storm, and a group of cold riders are chasing them down through the storm using their phantom steed and the environment as a hazard. And this encounter could be quite deadly for them, especially using the environment as a natural hazard and all the abilities the Cold Riders have. They have a nice ability implement of ice, so they get effectively a +2 icy burst weapon for their glaive. But if you want to give each of these Cold Riders more flavor, you can change their weapon types up a bit. Instead of a glaive, have a bow, sword, etc., and combine all their abilities with the weather, and then any additional things you want to give the Cold Riders to make them more unique. That is a challenge upon themselves. Also, they have a bunch of combat feat, and also they're pretty good at mounted combat. So if you want to have a foe that can ride a horse in combat, they're quite good, especially if you want to do a chase scene combat type of encounter with the Cold Riders. And plus, whenever you're in a cold environment, they get a nice ice walking ability, so they get to effectively climb ice walls using the spider climb spell. And they have a pretty nice weakness. If you are using a shatter or a fire base spell, you would be doing a lot of damage to them, 3d6 effectively. And they have a fast heal of 5, which is pretty nice at this TL.
Yeah,
So-
definitely. Once upon a time, I definitely did like Pokemon. Like you had to push the blocks into the into the hole, go into the 7th gym every time. And I did. They were pushing blocks into the hole, but it was really fun to watch people with bad saves fall over the place as there's like 10 Cold Riders running around playing hockey, essentially.
Yeah, Cold Riders, they're an interesting monster if you want to have something close to a Lord of the Rings Knight Rider.
The Nazgul.
Yeah, the Nazgul or the Knight Riders type of foe
Yeah,
in a cold theme environment. And
that is true.
Fast Tier 5, that is pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Infernal Healing Greater or Celestial Healing Greater, you get like fast healing for once you're like a level 7 or 8 bowcaster. So that is pretty good to have around this point for CRs.
Yeah, another important thing to note, though CR is arbitrary, again, another way to like challenge your players more or to make little guys hit harder is to remember to not just like for example, at my house for our in-person games, we have a roll for initiative whiteboard with a grid on it. And don't just like, here is a square, this is a tree, now fight! Don't do that. Like, the terrain is super important a lot of the time. At like my players in Lordly Caliber, and again, Kane, you won't be there forever. You will find your trees, but right now they're in a desert, and the fort save to pass heat conditions is pretty arbitrary, and eventually magic will subvert it. But it's a little harder unless you have a fly speed or freedom of movement or something for ice. Swamps are also really deadly as well. But I digress. The point I'm making is make sure you know what's going on the battlefield. That's not just your monsters. Make sure you know like what happens. Even like you don't have to go look up every DC because I think minutia rules are kind of arbitrary. You can call them how you want to call them. But like people should try to, if they're moving more than 5 feet on really like thick ice, should probably fall and slide a little bit, especially like if there's a dude, not even with a lance, just a dude charging at you and then he tags you with something, you're probably not gonna stand up. Well, anyway, because you just got tagged with something that somebody ran at you with a horse, but like you can't brace.
We can talk about we can do an episode on environment and environmental hazards.
Environment hazards, if you use them right, they can be a challenge upon themselves, such as a winter storm limiting the player's sight.
Yeah, suddenly your visibility is 5 feet and you can't keep your balance, and here come all these dudes pushing you around. That gets super hard. But if anybody, I guess we're coming up at about an hour. I don't think we started at flat 7 o'clock.
We are about an hour now. We started like 8:06 my time.
Fair enough.
We're at
But why I say we should
54 minutes.
We should save this environmental hazards discussion for another week.
Yeah, that Moloch video that people have seen on my channel like 4 days ago isn't going to edit itself here on Monday night. So yeah, we probably should take her on home. Again, guys, if you like what you see, like and subscribe for more videos. That helps out a lot. Go yonder over to the end of Planar Crossroads. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Watch their stuff. If nothing else, you get to watch me be like boorish and rude around a bunch of people as a 6 charisma orc. And like, this is assuming we survive tomorrow's session.
Nah, we'll be fine.
We are dead. We are so dead. The party is split hard.
Well,
Yeah, we split the party like every week, though.
Yeah, but not when there's faceless stalkers running around.
They're not faceless stalkers.
They're faceless stalkers in the book.
We watch them eat food.
Yeah.
Don't worry, everything is fine. You're heroes. Heroes win, do they not?
Yeah, I'm gonna hug the paladin really hard. Just right here. Here we are. We're not gonna die. But I digress. Again, thank you guys so much for coming out, and we will see you next time.
Bah, 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 bah.
Dum, 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 dum.